Welcome everybody to my Letterboxd profile. So we're going to be taking a look at this as it's a really good indicator of not just the kind of films that I own and love, but also films that I have recently watched, the reviews I have done for them, and my most hated, most liked, the kind of common directors and common actors that have appeared over this year or previous years or overall. And it's a really good indicator of what you like and how many times you've watched certain, stuff from certain people, cinematographers, composers, stuff like that. So, these are my current favourite films on my Letterboxd profile. Only one of these has recently been changed. Diodes and Don't Look Now and Jewel have been there for the longest of time, but on Her Majesty's Service this has been the most recent change. Used to be Goldfinger there, but this James Bond film has, in the last couple of years or so, been my most recent favourite. It regularly changes my favourite James Bond film, but this is my most recent favourite. So, being my favourite series, it's bound to take up at least one of these spots. So, that's why. And these are my most recent watched films. Absolution is the best non-rewatch that I've watched recently, but The Package is my favourite out of the four. Then I do reviews, but they're not particularly complicated or anything like that. If you want to read them, then pause the video as and when. And these are my most popular reviews as of late. This Carol one has been popular since it came out, but only at 5 likes. But recent popular one was White Heat, which I watched a little over 10 days ago. A really cracking film from Raoul Walsh, who is my favourite current first film from him that I've seen. Obviously, I hopefully will watch more from him at some point. And like I said, it's a really good way of looking at the films that you've watched recently. So you got your diary of every film that you've watched per date and the rating and whether you liked it or it's a rewatch. And then you can just go into here and look at your review that you've done for it if you've done one for it. And you got your activity from any of your friends who add things to watch list or review films, and this is all variable as well. By the way, you can turn off all of this if you want by activity filters. But it's a superb way of keeping track of everything, just like it is a perfect way of keeping track of everything that you've watched. So so far in 2021 we've watched a lot of films, 358 to be in fact. I've not done reviews for all of them because some rewatches that I just don't have anything extra to say, so if I don't have anything extra to say, I don't see the point of doing another review of it. Made 5 lists, had 197 likes, 2 comments, and I've watched 602 hours of film, which is quite a lot. My top 10 of 2021 is basically the top 10, the only 10 that I've watched so far this year. So Godzilla vs Kong, then Quiet Place Part 2, then Nobody, and then Fear Street 1966 Part 3. They're the only ones that I've properly liked. Then F9, then 1994 from Fear Street, then Black Widow, then Conjuring 3, then Fear Street 1978, and then The Power. Most of them are actually horror films. Power, Fear Street films, Conjuring, and Quiet Place are all obviously horror films. So it's been a bit dominated by horror so far this year, which is quite frankly a good thing to see. And that it also gives you films by week. The most films I watched in a given week has been 16, which has happened twice, then 15, then 14, and then 13 several other times. So I do get quite a lot in despite working and having other commitments. So and as you can see, average of 44.8 a month, 11.5 a week. My most popular day is Saturday because usually I have Saturdays off. So first film watch was Host, most watches have been The Black Cat, and then the last film was The Package. And then I have featured lists, so favourite pre-2021 first time viewings. I do this purely to keep track of films that I want to buy, that I've recently seen, that I have loved. I've not bought all of these as of yet. My top 5 I've only bought Kiss Me Deadly, Sweet Smell of Success, and The Big Heat. Still need to get Experiment in Terror and Soul. But most of these I have bought, which are really good films. Some of them I haven't been able to buy because they're either not available or they're a bit pricey because they're either out of print or they're expensive editions. But regardless, it's been a cracking year for films so far, and obviously we're not even we've still got 4 and a bit months left. So really looking forward to seeing what the rest of the year holds for us. But the films I've seen so far that I've rated 4.5 or more, they're the only ones that go into this list, are incredible, really. 60 of them so far, and I imagine that'll keep on growing. But yeah, I don't give out 4.5 or 5 stars lightly. So yeah, these 60, even though yeah, it's far from the overall amount of films that I've watched so far this year, are worthy of that 4.5 or 5 stars. Though there's only been a few that have been given 5 stars. Yeah, there's only been 6 that have been given 5 stars so far. So yeah, and it's only 10% of what I've put in this list are 5 stars, which again is not a rating I give out lightly. And then every film I've watched in 2021. So these are just basically listed from oldest to newest. So the oldest film I've watched so far this year is from 1931, and then 32, 35, 39, and then quickly we're into the 40s. So I've not watched many films from the 50s, 30s even, which is a bit of a shame. But it does help you break down in terms of decade, genre, the service that you've watched it on, because I have my services on here: Amazon, Netflix, Disney, and BritBox, and Now TV mainly. And yeah. So we'll just go through the decades. So yeah, I've watched 5 from the 1930s. 2 of those were from the Boris Karloff Columbia collection, I think it was. And then Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I got on, as well as Scarface and The Public Enemy. Actually, I got on. I think I got The Public Enemy on Premium Collection, but I know what I did on with Scarface and Hunchback of Notre Dame. And then in the 40s, we've watched a massive 39 films, which is quite a lot for me. But again, primarily because of the Boris Karloff stuff, because there was 1, 2, 3, 4 films from that. Then I watched the Inner Sanctum series, which included Calling Dr. Death, Weird Woman, Dead Man's Eyes, Frozen Ghosts, Strange Confession, and Pillow of Death. I think that was all of them. Yeah, but still, a lot of films from the 40s there. But yeah, they've all pretty much been great, and which is good to see. I think pretty much all of them have been given at least 4 stars, sometimes 4.5. Yeah, most of them are 4 stars, 4.5 stars. Which again, is really nice to see. The 40s do have a lot of quality, and then we go again in the 1950s to 61 films. These are the 50s have primarily been fueled by the Columbia Noir collections, which include the likes of 7-Eleven Ocean Drive, Convicted, Between Midnight and Dawn, The Mob, The Sniper, Fair in Trinidad, Drive Crooked Road, Tight Spot. You get the idea. Lots of them in there, but mostly 50s films have been creature features, monster films, the sci-fi horror kind of stuff like Day the End World Ended, Phantom from 10,000 Leagues, Creature Walks Among Us, as well as Revenge of the Creature, Not of This Earth, The Night the World Exploded, Monster from Green Hell, which was actually pretty crap. Deadly Mantis was better than I expected, though, to be fair. Kronos was decent. Black Scorpion was actually really rather good. Had effects by the guy that invented Ray Harryhausen, who originally did the King Kong, and the guy who originally did the King Kong effects, which was great to see. And then you got like Crawling Eye, House on Haunted Hill, which was a rewatch. And then the best title of any film from the 50s, I Married a Monster from Outer Space, which was really rather fun. And then moving swiftly on to the 60s, yeah. Go down a little bit to 52, but still a fair old amount of films. Again, a lot of these are also creature features, like Reptilicus, which was pretty awful. The Leech Woman. And then you got your kaiju Japanese films like Gorath. And then you got Robinson Crusoe on Mars. So yeah, a really wide variety of films in the 60s. It's not just the sci-fi horror kind of stuff. You've also got your westerns like Day of Anger and Sons of Katie Adler, or Elder. And yeah, you also get your war films from the later 60s, like Battle of Britain, which was actually really rather good. And so was a bridge over at Remagen as well, or Remagen. So yeah. But swiftly 70s, again we go down. I don't know why, I thought I'd watch more from the 70s, to be honest, considering I've been watching a lot of Giallo films, like Your Vice's A Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, and the Polizio films like No, the Case is Happily Resolved, But yeah, the 70s has been a bit underwhelming so far this year. But there have been several good films from that decade. Then we finally go up in the 80s. But a lot of these have been rewatches, like Star Wars films and Reanimator and Night of the Creeps, A Better Tomorrow, Flight of the Navigator, Raw Deal. But yeah, actually I don't think I've watched Flight of the Navigator before, actually. But yeah, again, these are more horror, as you can see. Got your Monster Squad, you got Pulse, got House 2, Night of the Creeps. So you can definitely see the differences in genres as you move forward. Because then you get to the 90s, and you've got more action films, like Hard Boiled, Toy Soldiers, Speed, Crimson Tide. You still got several cracking films in there. You got the Gamera trilogy, which is easily one of my favourite trilogies that I have seen, especially for the first and third one. The second one was a little weak, but still better than most of the films from the previous series, from the 60s and 70s. And then move on to the 2000s. Again, I've been really meaning to catch up on more films from the 2000s because it's clearly a decade that is lacking. It has been for a while, but I have made up some ground, either with rewatches or with films that I've been meaning to watch. But yeah, not many films there that I've seen for the first time that I can really highly recommend. Only really Royal Tenenbaums, Dog Soldiers, We Own, not really, Lust and Caution, and that's pretty much it. Move on to the 2010s, we go up a little bit, but not by much. Again, not many new or first time watches that I have massively enjoyed. Some decent ones. Red Hill was actually fairly good, and so was The Final Girls, but Collide was awful. But Captive State was actually better than I expected it to be. A lot of people were hating on that film, but I really rather enjoyed it. Saint Maud was really good as well. Dark Waters was solid. Blood Vessel had a really good title and pun, but wasn't much more than that. The same with VFW, which had a solid premise and good cast, but again was really rather underwhelming. And on to the 2020s, where we've seen a fair decent amount of films, but these are mostly just the top 10 that you saw earlier. But Greenland was decent. Caveat was reasonably scary. Anything But Jackson was really rather good. Onward was a decent Pixar effort. Possessor was kind of creepy. Empty Man was absolutely superb. It's easily one of the best recent horror films out there, so if you haven't seen that, I know plenty of people haven't, then get out there and watch it. So yeah, we'll finish up on 2021 now. So yeah, also breaks down the genres, the country that they're made in, and the languages. Italian, unsurprisingly, with all of the spaghetti westerns and giallo films that I've been watching, is in second place. And Japanese has been lingering behind after last year when it was in second place as well, so it's a bit of a shame. So, but yeah, as you can see, I've mostly been watching films for the first time this year. 82.4% as opposed to 17.6% in terms of rewatches. So yeah, not watched many films that I have enjoyed before again, but hopefully that'll change at some point because I do need some respite between watching films for the first time. And rating spread, not really watched that many awful films, not watched any films I've given half a star yet. Watched 2 films I've given 1 star, 1 film 1.5 stars, 5 films 2 stars, and then 22 films that I give 2.5 stars. 2.5 stars to me isn't technically an awful film. There's generally some good stuff about it, but just not enough to genuinely like. Then 3 stars I do like, 3.5 stars as well. 4 stars is on the verge of loving, it's just not quite there, and then 4.5 is love, and then 5 stars is all-time classic. And these are the actors that I've seen the most. So Boris Karloff, Vincent Price, 2 of the best horror actors of their time, are in first and second position. Then Byron Fugler, who is one of those actors that has been in plenty of stuff, plenty of good stuff as well. Hangmen Also Die, Ride the High Country, and The Sniper were really rather good. But he's not one of those actors that you instantly recognise. Then Lon Chaney Jr., he was all of those films that I've seen from him so far this year have been the Inner Sanctum films. Then Orlando Bloom, then Glenn Ford, then another horror icon in form of Christopher Lee, Then Dick Miller, who is cameo king, quite frankly. Been in so many films with small roles, it's unbelievable. Matinee, Tales from the Crypt, Night of the Creeps, Unlawful Entry, Truck Turner, and Not of This Earth. Fairly solid films overall. Then Vera Farmiga, mainly for the Conjuring films, I think, this year. Yeah. Godzilla and Crafty State as well, but mainly the Conjuring films. She wouldn't have been in there without those films. And Edmund O'Brien has been the breakout star for me for this year, because yeah, he's been in so many good films that I've seen. As you can see, 3 of those are 4.5 stars, and more than deserved, quite frankly. Then Robert Ostolo, who again is another actor that has been in plenty, but you wouldn't necessarily know him from his face. You might notice him in the credits. Percy Helton is someone that you'd recognise in terms of his face and his accent, because he's got quite a funny voice, but you probably wouldn't notice him by name. But again, in several great films. It's really weird how some of these actors can just, pop up in certain films without ever realising it. Then the great Gene Hackman, then Dean Martin. Mainly he's been in films from the Matt Helm series. There was 4, but then he was also in Sons of Katie Adler, or Elder. Don't know why I keep saying Adler. And then Frank Gerstle, again another actor that is in numerous films. He was in 2 of the Matt Helm films, as well as 3, kind of creature feature films or sci-fi horror films. Then there's James Gregory, then Kyle Chandler, then Burt Lancaster, then Stefan Tobolowsky, then Sean Astin, mainly for Lord of the Rings, although also Toy Soldiers. And then directors, this is where it gets really interesting, because Samuel Fuller has shot up to the first place position, purely because of the Fuller at Fox collection that I got, which included 40 Guns, House of Bamboo, Fixed Bayonets, and Hell and High Water. I had another one in there, but I think I recently saw that, so that's why I didn't review it, I don't think. Then he also Naked Kiss, Shot Corridor, and then Pick Up on South Street. So yeah, as you can see, pretty much a flawless run there. 3 4.5 star films, and then 4 4-star films. So yeah, probably the best rated director out there outside of Jules Dessin. As you can see, 3 4.5 star films and 2 4-star films. I might have been a bit harsh on Thieves Highway and not giving it the extra half star, but that's just the way it goes. And schlock auteur Roger Corman, then comedic legend Mel Brooks, then noir legend Fritz Lang. 4 spectacular films there. Then Giuliano Conimo, who did 4 of the 5 Sartana films, the spaghetti westerns. Then Phil Carson, who did 2 of the Matt Helm films, which keep popping up in this video. And then Tight Spot and 5 Against the House, which win the Columbia Noir collections. Then Joseph H. Lewis, who I got Gun Crazy and Terror in Texas Town recently. Terror in Texas Town in Inner Texas Town from the Arrow Summer Camp sale. Then Gun Crazy from the Premium collection. Then John Woo, the 2 Better Tomorrow films, Face Off and Hard Boiled. 2 of those re-watches. I wasn't a massive fan of the Better Tomorrow films, to be honest. Hard Boiled is better, and it really does show off how good John Woo is, to be honest. Then Richard Franklin, Australian director. Road Games is amazing. Link and Patrick are decent. And then Don Siegel and Leah Janik, who did the Fear Street films, then Nick Grine, then Quentin Tarantino, Henry Levin, and Richard Fleischer, who See No Evil was a bit weak, but Vikings and New Centurions was decent. And yeah, it also gives you all the crew breakdowns. I'm not going to go through all these because it'll take forever, but yeah, it gives you all of them. It gives you even more, in fact. So, studios, composers, sound, costumes, makeup, visual effects, which, yeah, visual effects was dominated by Ray Harryhausen in the previous year. Then my most liked review from this year, 4 Lights for Fanny Lie Delivered, which was an amazing film. Then your highest average, lowest average, most popular and most obscure. The Great Manhunt, or State Secret as it's called, has only had how many reviews now? 90. So yeah, I think it's the only under 100 review that I have done so far, or film that I've seen so far. And then you got all of the films, you can see more of them, and then it gives you the map country as well. So I'll quickly have a look over my lifetime of films, and then then we'll be done. So yeah, I've seen 2,394 films at 4,260 hours, 1,276 directors across 58 countries, which isn't all that much to be honest, considering there's nearly 200 countries out there. But yeah, regardless, I have a top 100 all-time favourite films list. Not going to go through that because that'll take forever, but we might do that in another video at some point. Then yeah, breaks down each year and how many films you've watched. So yeah, I've watched a film from every year from 1931 right through to 2021, although I've not seen that many from, I've only seen one film from 34, 36 and 37, so I really need to bump those up to be honest. But yeah, and then my highest rated decades, 1940s, 1960s and 1950s. 1940s is no surprise, I rarely go for a film that has a low rating from that decade, because I feel like a low rating from then might make it even worse because of, you know, the rudimentary filming techniques. And then every film I own on 4K or Blu-ray. Then the same breakdown again. Then there's a bunch of lists that you can follow. I am unashamedly not got that many high percentages on here. Box office all time, top 100 is fine, but everything else is below 50%. So yeah, really need to bump those numbers up. Then the collections tells you what collections you've watched and what you've completed and what you've almost completed. So I've completed 71 collections, which is quite impressive. Then my most watched, then my rated higher than average, then my rated lower than average. I hate all of those films, they're all awful, very little good about them. And then my top stars, Samuel L. Jackson, unsurprisingly being in the top spot, given all the Avenger films he's been in, and then all the films before that, is no surprise. But Vincent Price running up the rear there, only 7 films behind. I think I've way more than that from him to watch, so he could at some point overtake Samuel L. Jackson. Then Gene Hackman, then Sean Connery, and then Christopher Lee. Really solid top 5 there, and that's the rest of them. Then top directors, Ishiro Honda and Alfred Hitchcock leading the way, 23 apiece. Then Roger Corman, then Brian De Palma, then Steven Spielberg. This is the rest of them. All really rather good directors, to be honest. And then again, crew and studios, and then the countries. So yeah, that's been a bit of a long video there, I do apologise, but yeah, I really do enjoy this site, and I highly recommend getting it if you haven't, or at least signing up to it if you haven't. You can't see everything that I've shown you today unless you are a patron or you subscribe on a yearly basis. Patreon is a little bit more, but like I said, you do get more for it, but the other level is still rather decent. But even the entry level for just signing up and just, you know, making a profile is still a really good one. And like I said, you can helps you keep track of things, help you review, help you find other films, because you can just go into any film here like this and look on their film web page, then just click into any actor, any of the crew, and then just look up films that they've done, and then, you know, sort them by film popularity or highest rating first of your own or whatever, shortest length, longest length. Or you can just do this, or you can look via service. So any of them on Netflix? Nope. Any of these on Amazon Prime? Yep, that, whatever that is. Obviously Mia Farrow isn't the best to choose from, but you get what I mean really. Because you can just go Richard Fleischer here, and then just go on service. Amazon Prime? Nope. Netflix? Nope. Again, I'm not really choosing the best people here, am I? Yeah, he's on Disney Plus with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but not on Art Cinema. So, but yeah, you can do that, and it's just a really, really good website to do stuff like that with. So, it's well worth the money per year, and it's well worth, you know, having your own profile on there as well. So, highly recommend it if you haven't. And if you do get a profile on here, then add me, and we can follow each other. And yeah, I can see what you watch, and you can see what I watch, and yeah. It's really good, and we can interact with each other, you know, comment, like, and all that lot, and it's really nice. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.